Okay, the relational approach to leadership made the most sense to me because that's the current approach that my leadership is using at my work. My boss and I, we have a close relationship, and she also has a close relationship with her other uh, followers or my coworkers. Um, in the vertical dyad linkage theory, it states that group members will have closer relations, and I can really relate to that. My boss will always come around and make sure that everything's going good for us, and I honestly do have a good relationship with her as far as being truthful and accountable with each other. It did also state like if you're the in group, this applies, and unfortunately, I do see an in and out group at my work. So I'm really close with my boss, so I have no problems with this relational approach. However, there are some individuals that aren't as close to her as I am, so I can see how they wouldn't like that approach, but this approach works for me, and that's my example.
Awesome. And then Maggie, do you want to go?
Bridget, were you going to go next?
I just went.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, it's your turn, Maggie.
okay. Made most sense to me was transformational leadership as well. I learned that transactional leadership is very passive. So transformational leadership is very, very active. And they gave several examples in the text about people that were transformational leaders. They would empower others. They were charismatic. The thing that stuck out to me the most about transformational age and they're involved. And I have an example of a boss that I used to work with, and even though he ran this very big company and he was very well known, he would engage with all of his workers. It was not unusual for him to just walk into somebody's office and sit down and ask, "What do you do for me?" and "Do you like working here?" and just walk the halls. And he made sure that everybody knew that he cared about their work, he cared about them as people. Asked him what was the most important to him. It wasn't the awards on the wall and all his leadership trophies. It was the people that he worked with. So for me, he was one of the best examples of a transformational leader that I know. So, Monica?
That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. Luther, do you want to go?
Yeah. So I kind of looked at, the progression of leadership styles kind of as an old school versus new school. So I think there are maybe some situations or circumstances where like transactional leadership may still be preferred, but I think it's more leaning towards relational and transformational leadership kind of across the board as a better situation, better strategy, better approach. I personally am a fan of transformational leadership. I have examples from my own personal life with a mentor of mine at a former employer. We actually had to do like a book club where they would buy and provide for the employees like Jim Collins books and business books, but we had to read it. And going through the process after the fact, what I realized is that they were doing that to create an environment where transformational leadership could be even more effective, because those of everybody from the logistics employees to the creatives to the administrative support, people from various backgrounds, various educational levels, all were receiving now the same kind of basis in business skills and processes. And then after having read those books and being able to understand the concepts and lessons in the books, now we would sit, around the boardroom and everybody could contribute to discussions, and they would ask for opinions. Like asking for opinions of the employees just for the sake of asking their opinions. Sometimes, you're blowing a lot of hot air. You're not really going to consider their input. But by providing a basic understanding and foundation for all of the employees, they created an environment that made transformational leadership even more effective and work for them.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Okay, Monica, do you want to go?
Yeah, so the approach that made the most sense to me was also transformational leadership. I had a boss that was a lot like Maggie's, where he would come around, sit down, ask you questions. He was really involved in empowering and uplifting, and it created an overall better office environment. I noticed that through his actions and his uplifting of people, people were taking more initiative, they were being more productive, and so overall I think that it's probably the best type of leadership for all corporations to use, or all companies to use, or to use in everyday life.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I also picked transformational leadership. I really liked what you said, Luther, about how it's really different to ask the opinions of people's like the different employees and stuff, but to actually use their input is really important. Because I've had leaders that just ask your opinion but don't really, care about what you have to say. So I think that's a really good quality for being a transformational leader. My current boss, I would describe him as being a transformational leader. He really values his employees, and the difference between him and my past employers is that he really wants to promote growth, and he creates like a creative environment where he asks your opinion, but also he uses that opinion in the workplace. So he's not just asking your opinion just to ask. And let's see, which creativity kind of promotes problem solving, and that kind of ties into empowering your employees. Like, he wants you to be able to think freely for yourself rather than just micromanaging different employees. So that's another reason why I really like him and think that he's a really good boss. And yeah, that's about all I have. And we still have a couple minutes for discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have a question. What did everybody think of the example that they gave about no employees were empowered, but they were given the ability to give somebody hundreds of dollars without asking, or do an exchange at the store? Because I think empowering is good, but I was just a little wondering if anybody's ever been in a situation like that where they were allowed to make really important decisions and financial decisions at work.
I think, well, I haven't been empowered to where I've been able to make financial decisions. I'm a shift supervisor at Starbucks right now, so I do have control of the money, and if there's a situation where a customer comes up and I have to handle it if my manager isn't there, so I do have to make decisions kind of on the fly. But I feel I know Starbucks policy well enough to make a good choice, what he would choose. But I've never been in a situation where I had so much money involved, I guess I would say. But I do understand what you mean, though. What if you chose the wrong one, I suppose?
I know, that's kind of what I was thinking, too. If everybody had the freedom to do that, what would that be like?
Yeah. Has anyone else had any examples?
Not with real money, but I have an example of when empowering kind of falls short or goes awry because it's a poorly designed kind of program. So at another former employer, I helped create a rewards program. If you see another coworker doing something good, you can award them with something called a core buck, if you will. So it was trying to empower others to speak up and communicate with their employees, hey, you did a real good job. And then at the end of every month, excuse me, at the end of every month, they would tally those bucks and give away some sort of prize. Which the intention was all good, but what we didn't really anticipate or look into is how it became kind of a political process. And there was some colluding, and then it also created some negative feelings, and some negative, some positive. It was kind of a wash and needed to kind of be redesigned. But if you empower your employees to make important decisions, that's not so important, but it did have an effect on morale and productivity before you're ready, before you really have a thorough understanding of the environment and the context, then it can go poorly.
Yeah, that's true. So we have about like 30 seconds left until we get to 11 minutes. So does anyone else have anything to say? Want to contribute? Yeah. Okay.
I was going to say, sorry, were you
Oh,
going
you're
to talk? As far as I said, I am familiar with relational, the approach, but I wouldn't particularly choose that. The examples that you all gave for the other leadership, I would choose that any day, but in my current position, this is how I am managing, but that's all.
That's good. I think each one has its pros and cons, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so we're out of time, so I'm going to stop the broadcast.